Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm doing a podcast with Reed Davis, one of my mentors for a long time, and the founder of the FDN practitioner program, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition practitioner program. And ironically, the day we're recording this is the day I just finished my verbal exam, and I'm now certified FDN practitioner after wanting to do this with Reed after watching you and Sean Croxton since 2011. So I'm very excited to be meeting with you today.
Fantastic. Congratulations. You worked very hard at that, and my best wishes moving forward. I'll look forward to interviewing you shortly as part of your post-grad interview and ascension plan.
Well, the reason I have always been passionate about what you teach people as FDN, we'll talk about what we do as health detectives and how the FDN process works, but I've always found that endurance athletes, we have this tendency to be little type A personalities. And as I wrote in my book, Life is Not a Race, we tend to do too much on top of training for endurance sports. And triathletes are doing swim, bike, and run. And then they're trying to have a family life. And so we get all these constant external stressors. And what I want to talk about, what are the hidden internal stressors that we don't know about unless we do functional lab testing, and how all these different external and internal stressors can accumulate and cause breakdown and burnout, which we're not aware of. And people just start to think that that's the way they are, and they just think that's part of the aging process. And we're out there to teach people you shouldn't feel like crap. It's not the new you, and we can help you. So talk about what is FDN to you, and what makes you just so passionate about creating this program the last 11 years now and bringing it to the world?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and I'll try to answer that question in relationship to your audience. Peak performance is, we all want it in one way or another, whether it's myself, anti-aging. I want to be youthful. I want to keep doing the stuff that I did when I was maybe not 20, but at least when I was 30 or 40. I'd be happy staying 40 until I'm about 90. That would be nice. And whether I was trying to say I'm in my 20s and 30s and I'm trying to do a marathon or something, I would follow the same guidelines and general principles, and that's what FDN is. It's using science, the lab work that we do. We look at hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification. There are markers we can look at. We can see where the healing opportunities are, where you can stand to improve. And then everybody, regardless of their health goals, improves when you follow the protocol, which, as you mentioned, is a complete holistic epigenetic program. It's influencing every cell, tissue, organ, every system, the entire organism. We influence everything simultaneously with the proper diet, the proper rest cycles, the exercise that we do, and try not to over-exercise too much. Let's talk about that a little bit. And then, of course, stress reduction, as you mentioned, and then supplementation can be very important. So it's a whole, FDN is a holistic program that looks into underlying conditions through lab work, and then recommends very individualized, let's say, optimization protocols, including, again, it's really DRESS. Mm-hmm. Diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplements. And I have to just correct a term like optimization. It sounds so false. It's what does that mean? So everybody, it's a different thing. For me, it might, again, be one thing. It's more anti-aging, being able to keep up with the younger fellas. It's been a while, about 2 or 3 years, 3 years since I injured my low back, and I quit wrestling. I was doing jiu-jitsu, and I was wrestling 25, 30, 35-year-olds. Nobody in the gym is stronger than me. They may have more technique, And believe me, they'll need it because they're not going to muscle me, And so I want to get back in the gym, do stuff like that. I still ride my motorcycle like 3 to 5 times a week and I do cool stuff that younger guys do. I hang out with my son. We go skiing all the time. So for me, optimization is all of that. Not to mention getting up in the morning with a clear head, being able to focus. I just submitted 6 blogs to my promotions manager. 6 blogs. That's a lot of writing, man. A lot of focus and a lot of like going back and forth. No, that should satisfy her for the next 6 weeks. Then I'm going to have to do it again. But you get the point. Optimization for me is one thing. On the other hand, you have your professional athletes or semi-professional or just people who like to compete and do stuff. Mm-hmm. My Pilates instructor, and I think that's a huge thing for me with flexibility and strength and balance and stuff, she does these mud runs. Like they call them tough mudders.
Tough mudder.
Yeah, and man, I mean, she's really competitive. And she's no spring chicken. She has grown-up kids and stuff. So for her, optimization is being able to go do a tough mudder and not get her butt handed to her, Now, we also have an FDN. I'll tell you, his name's Curtis Bell. He's the personal trainer and strength coach for the Pittsburgh Penguin National Hockey League. So we have an FDN coaching, and we have another one with the Toronto Raptors. So we've got people who've taken our course, and, on top of all of their coaching skills, the strength and endurance and peak performance training, they're able to get really deep in that person's physiology and make improvements that pans out on the playing field, on the court or on the rink or wherever it might be. And so we can help anybody improve performance, not to mention overcome conditions that everyone else seems to not be able to deal with, but you get the point.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, as athletes, tend to overtrain, obviously, is a big thing, and that chronic cardio and how that contributes to internal dysfunction with the oxidative stress and overloading our liver and just this whole domino effect that we talk about what metabolic chaos is. So what is metabolic chaos? Have you explain it, and how our extreme lifestyle and addicted to busyness and chronic cardio doing long distance training, how that accumulates and impacts our whole health from the inside out?
Great question. And me as a health coach, and I started health coaching before that was a handle, before that was a term. I ran thousands of labs and thousands of people and came up with a system that looks into the answers to your question. Metabolic chaos is a phrase that I coined to describe you're messed up inside. But, you can't say that. So, metabolic chaos. It also means we don't diagnose and treat specific conditions. We're not providing any medical diagnosis. And medical diagnoses are fine if you need one, but who wants one, we often ignore those terms and say, well, you can call it what you want. Here's a cluster of symptoms someone's showing up with. We're not going to concern ourselves with that too much, what the medical diagnosis is. We're going to give a monopoly to metabolic or to medical diagnosis to those that license to do it. No, so then there's us, where we care about the causal factors. What are the contributors to the breakdown? Now, that breakdown, I just call it metabolic chaos because it's so complex. There's no one test. You could run 5 or 8 tests on somebody, still not figure out the quote-unquote root cause. Mm-hmm. But we know that we can have an effect upon it. That's the beauty of our one diagnosis. There's metabolic chaos. There's things going on a cellular level, tissue level, organ level, system level. And we run our labs that we run, getting insights into those things. Again, hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, autonomic balance. When you get some markers for that, you can assess the healing. We call them the healing opportunities. So in that chaos, or from that chaos, we identify opportunities for improvement, healing opportunities, and then set to work. there's ways to balance the hormones, improve digestion, detoxification. Your immune system could be overactive or underactive, and so on and so on. So with the correct markers, we're able to apply wellness principles, and those principles are inherent in our protocol, the Dress for Health Success protocol. And so I think, you asked, what is metabolic chaos? It's anything that isn't going right, and we don't want to give it a label per se. And also, the underlying causes can be really far removed. The root cause, you might never find it. There's no one test, certainly. We're 100 years away from that. So we get our markers that we get, and it turns out, because I worked on 10,000 people, that if you adjust those things, you get a person to live in such ways that they've improved their hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system. And by the way, I got that memorized because it spells hidden, HIDDEN. So that's why it's so easy for me to rattle off. When you look at the hidden stressors and dysfunction and get those straightened, your clients just get better. Mm-hmm. Or if they're already in decent shape, they can make those little improvements. The difference in track, if you take track, guys that run the 100 meters, or, someone who's a half a second slower than someone else isn't even in the same ball game. Like you're slow, man. They won't even talk to you if you're like, I don't know what the exact numbers, but if you run a 9.9, the guy running a 9.2 doesn't think you can carry his luggage. The differences are so minute, but they're really important to these to folks that do that stuff.
Yeah, I think what I keep thinking of when you're talking about all this is, from my own experience, often we get lab testing, and since we're this, type AAA personality, we want results now. And so myself, in my book I wrote, Life's Not a Race, I went to like 10 different practitioners trying to get the magic pill. And I think a lot of us think, if I just get these lab results, and most people just give one or two, and then they say, okay, here's your cortisol panel, your hormones, these are all low. Let's give you these supplements to bring those levels back up. So you think, all right, that's all I need to do. Take those supplements. And we need to stress the importance of changing your lifestyle habits. And I say this every week, and doing this health building coaching podcast on Wednesdays now, talking about everything I've been learning. And it's just such a huge part that I used to think, I just need that magic pill, give me back to racing, get my body back in shape and get my hormones back in balance. But I think we need to realize that it is a commitment, and you have to be motivated to go down this path and to start this new transformation, healing, rebuilding journey, that it's not just supplementation that's going to fix you to bring you back to your own balance, homeostasis.
That's the beauty of working with athletes sometimes, is that they already they're bringing some discipline to the game. And so you can, a lot of times when you run the labs and you illuminate these opportunities for improvement, they're all over it. They're, oh, wow, really? Okay, so they can make the little minor adjustments maybe in their diet or in their sleep patterns, or even the way they exercise. Although, again, they're kind of over-exercising. There's ways to counter-regulate that to some degree. And then the stress reduction, they're, athletes have food sensitivities, bacteria, viruses, funguses, parasites, and so everybody can be improved. But again, the athlete brings some discipline to the equation and makes it easy to get results, or at least you can notice them right away. You can track what you can measure, you can improve, you can track, and it gets pretty hard for them to sort of fib to us.
Well, that's why.
Oh yeah, I'm doing the program. No, you're not, man. You're slower. Whatever it is. It's we can hold them accountable.
Yes, and that's why you need the lab testing with those type of people, that we need to see evidence on paper. Look, you're not doing what I said to do. Here's all these 5 labs that we just retested, and look at what's going on. So I think you need that motivation to show, all right, you're not cutting back on your exercise enough. You're not balancing out with more strength training or whatever different techniques we can do to counterbalance that excessive cardio. But what are some ways that we can explain to people that their exercise, you may be fit, but as Maffetone said years ago in an article, being fit and unhealthy, that we're fit on the outside, but how you're wearing yourself out and speeding up the aging process on the inside by doing this exercise, endurance exercise.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you're so right. I go to conferences quite a bit, and I see people that look fit, and they're walking around in their singlet shirts and their shorty shorts or whatever, and they look at men and women looking really good. And then we start talking, and I ask them, how you sleeping, or how's your sex drive, or how's your digestion? You ever have any trouble going to the bathroom, or you get headaches? Just all these sinuses. Also, you find out that a big percentage of them actually are just like everyone else. They just look better. They've got problems. And so we're there to help everybody. And it just turns out that their problems are, and their health goals are different. Everyone's health goals are different, but they're easy to relate to. Hey, you look great. How's it really going? And if they still sort of are in denial, then we run the labs, like you said. Well, we run the labs anyway. I can recall the very first FDN course I ever taught 11 years ago. It was a live event, and there was a lady in there who just was overwhelmed, almost in tears, with how good she thought she was versus what her labs were telling us. Hormones were out of whack. Digestion she wasn't absorbing her food. No wonder she couldn't gain weight. She was very thin, because she had no digestive system to speak of. Food was just passing through her, without much absorption, and so on and so on. And she had to admit that, I do get sick like 4 or 5 times a year. I get the flu. Well, that's not healthy. Even though you, again, look good, feel good, very positive attitude, which is a beautiful thing. Spiritually somewhat developed, and yet a mess, really. Mm-hmm. So we're there to help everybody bring a sense of reality in. And the lab work is one of the ways we do that. The rest of it's through interviewing and our basic onboarding patterns and questions. But, the labs really don't lie much.
Well, that's what I think you're saying too, is that it's not just about lab testing. As I can testify that I did that with many doctors. And, I said in my book that by the time I went through all these different doctors, I realized the biggest change is myself. And until I deal with my own dress, my, nutrition, I was doing good foods, but I was probably having foods that I'm sensitive to. So you don't know that until you get an MRT test or find out what you're sensitive to, because there could be healthy foods. And then my stress level from running my own business and just all these different external stressors, until I could deal with those things and get my sleep hygiene in order and my exercise. I have to switch my schedule around, that I'm not doing such long stuff, and that less is more, not more is better. And switching that mindset, that there's, a lot of what we do as a health coach and mentoring other people is part of this new lifestyle change. And the supplementation is really essential, but I think it's a whole package, and that's why I call it the holistic method. And we look at this holistic method of coaching people up. And as you say, coach down their contributors to metabolic chaos with the right protocol to heal and rebuild, but coaching them up as, their lifestyle habits. So I think we just don't realize how important that is, part of the big five.
Yeah, that's our scope of practice, if you want to call it that. It's our world. And there's been a lot of talk lately about genes.
Yep.
And testing people's genes, and then trying to use that information system to dictate stuff like supplementation. And there's some validity to that, but you have your genes. Like, for instance, I will never be an NBA player. I don't have the genes to be successful in the NBA, no matter how good I can shoot. So genes matter in sports, picking a sport and things like that. But in general health principles, genes are a small part of the information your body uses to express health and be healthy and happy. And so what are the other information systems is what I'm looking for. And again, what you eat. I mean, it's proven now the standard American diet is making people obese and making them die early of all kinds of oddball, unwanted conditions. The standard American diet is really bad for you. So a good diet is going to be good for you. It just makes sense. So that's an information system if you want. There are vitamins and minerals, essential fatty acids, there's antioxidants and so on, phytonutrients and so on, that are information that the body uses when you put that in the body, and it either is going to build health or be deleterious. It will destroy health in a sense. Very few things are neutral. Very few things are neutral. So genes matter, but food matters, I'd say, more. Another thing is how well you sleep, and going to bed on time and getting some deep hours of sleep. I find that when I go to bed early and get really deep sleep, the kind where you're zonked out, you're not dreaming, you're not fidgeting around, you're just out cold. It's actually called non-REM, like level 3, certain delta wave sleep. It's really restorative. Your brain cells actually shrink, and you can clean the brain out, cerebral spinal fluid. It's called the glymphatic system. You can look it up on Joe Mercola's site, the glymphatic system. Glial cells shrink. Lymphatics kind of process the toxins out of your brain. That's really a good thing. That's the kind of sleep you want. And if you got that, you'd only need 3 or 4 hours a night, maybe even less. Now you want your your REM sleep and all that stuff too. So that's a huge epigenetic factor. That's going to dictate how genes are expressed. So it isn't, again, it's not the genes. That's one information system. The body's using all this other information, like the foods and nutrients and proteins and fats and carbs and all the things that you get in it, and the sleep, and then your exercise. Now, this is where you want to get into. What about over-exercise? What does your body do with that information? Well, first of all, your stress hormones are going to go out of balance. You're going to get into a catabolic state. When you raise cortisol, which is your stress hormone, you're doing it. Basically, your body wants to raise and maintain sugar levels for the brain, so that you can move your body and do certain things. Cortisol does that. It's also a anti-inflammatory. It's also a painkiller, because some people work out to the point of pain. So they're raising their cortisol. Now, the counter-regulatory hormone to cortisol is called DHEA for short, dehydroepiandrosterone. That's the parent of your sex hormones, by the way. But it counter-regulates cortisol, and you need them in a good ratio. If they're out of ratio, and it's easily measured with the saliva test, if they're out of ratio, you are breaking your body down. You see this in long-distance runners who looks like they have no meat on their bones. They have no fat on their bodies. You wonder how they're even doing it, but it's because they've the cortisol has broken their actual proteins, their muscles down, and used it for blood sugar, used it for energy. And so those things are really important information systems that your body will thrive or not upon. And then you mentioned stressors and supplements. I'm happy to talk about those too if you need to.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to touch on the hidden stressors we talk about, are the hidden internal stressors, and how chronic stress, you just talked about H is for hormone imbalance, how that impacts our hormones is chronic exercise. And then let's maybe touch on how the chronic cardio or excessive exercise impacts our immune system, detoxification, digestion, energy, nervous system, if we can couple bullet points on those different hidden internal stressors.
Yeah, sure.
So immune system.
There's let's say that the body adapts. That body will adapt to the kind of exercise you're doing. Now, it could adapt in a good way or in a not so good way, maybe even a destructive way. If a Volkswagen was a human body, Volkswagens are designed for efficiency. They can go a long way, not at a real high speed, or they're not a high performance car, but they can go a long way on a little bit of gas because the cylinders are small, the fuel lines are small, the carburation system is small. It's designed for efficiency. So if it was a human body and adapting to the stress you were putting it under, and you started using it on the drag strip, if you started going and racing your Volkswagen, your little 4-cylinder rear engine Volkswagen, the old kind I used to drive, and you just constantly going through the 4 gears, completely revved up all the time. This would equate to, sprinting or practicing for football. I coached football 15 years. I know a few things about it and the amount of stress that bodies go under. And so it was youth football, but same thing. What would happen if that Volkswagen was the human body? The cylinders would actually get larger. The fuel lines would actually get larger. The carburation amount of ability to intake, it's called the cardiopulmonary. So it's the heart and the lungs working together. All that will expand and get big. So that tells you, in a sense, that sprinting, short, what they call, high intensity exercise for short periods of time could be really beneficial to cardiopulmonary fitness. That if you want to be able to sprint really fast, break out, and this is good for wrestlers because it's explosive moves that you want at the right time. For football players to get off the line, for hockey players, obviously, to make the dash for the goal line type of a thing. You get the point. So it's good. Now, it also would be good for, let's say, you want to run across the street and save someone from a fire. Well, if you've never been there before, if your heart and lungs have never done it before, it could cause some serious problems for you. So that kind of cardiopulmonary fitness is really, really important and a fantastic adaptation. So I think that information is useful in terms of, is stressing the body, good for it. Yeah, there is. It's called eustress. It's a good kind of stress. You're going to build yourself up so that, again, if you have an emergency and you have to run across the street, you've done it before. Your heart and lungs have worked together at that capacity already. Now you have to maintain it, and it's not easy to maintain. But you want to achieve that kind of fitness if you're an athlete, and at the same time, you don't want to do too much aerobic exercise. So what I was just talking about was the sprinting. It's going above aerobic capacity. You actually get out of breath doing it. If you're trying to do too much aerobic exercise, like you're constantly running, like long distance runners, the smart ones do sprints in the off season because they're actually deconditioning themselves as they do train for marathons and stuff. Using the car analogy again, Debbie, it's like if you took a dragster and you started driving it across country. Now, this is a car or machine that's designed for sprints. It's only supposed to go a quarter of a mile in just a few seconds. So it has a huge amount of gas and air going through, and, whatever kind of fuel and all these different things going through, and it burns it up all real quick. So if it was a human body, you could, in a sense, decondition it by driving across country. Pretty soon it would go, wow, we're stopping for gas every 10 minutes. That's no good. So we better get more efficient. Let's reduce the size of the carburetors. Let's reduce the size of the fuel lines, like the blood supply. Let's make the carburetor smaller. If that dragster was a human body adapting the way human bodies do to the type of driving you're doing, you take that dragster driver across country and you're going to decondition it. It no longer could do those things that you want it to do. And the human body's kind of like that.
Did you see the new movie out, Ford versus Ferrari, yet?
No. I'm thinking about it.
If you like cars and the car analogy and how to make it faster and how there's the sprinting, it's a good movie to watch. But it was reminding me about that movie I just saw on Thanksgiving. But I think it's looking at the hormesis stress, the hormetic stressors, the good or bad. And I always talk about the Goldilocks effect, not too much of this, not too little, just the right amount for your body to stay in tune and to balance, and fine tuning based on your own innate body's ability to what it needs to do based on your genetics too, and your individual self. But I think the immune system gets so impacted that people don't realize how the exercise impacts, it's all connected. So if we have chronic exercise, it's getting our hormones out of balance and our immune systems in our gut, and that's depressed when our hormones, we have too much stress. So that's going to, it's a whole domino effect we talk about, and how important the immune system is to our whole health and our gut health, and how that contributes to leaky gut, and how, our first line of defense is down. So I keep talking about this on my Wednesday episodes, but I think so many athletes don't realize that what they're doing is perhaps speeding up their aging process, and they don't realize that they need to take care of the whole athlete, which is what the show's about, that they need to address these different issues. Because if you're having that chronic cardio, you're talking about how that stress on your body is going to impact the hormones, immune system, detoxification, digestion, and the energy systems. There'd be that mitochondria dysfunction too, I keep reading more about. So
well, when you're under any kind of stress, and excessive exercise and intense exercise is stressful, your body doesn't really care what kind of stress it's under. It's going to do some things physiologically. It's going to respond to them all the same way it would if you got chased by a tiger or a lion, or you get cut off on the highway, or you get punched in the face and yelled at, or something like that. So or if you got assaulted with certain kinds of germs, stress, the body's going to respond in an adaptive and protective, pro-survival way. So when you're under stress, like intense exercise, the first thing is your digestion is going to go to hell, because you don't need digestive juices to be breaking down food and wasting energy and resources on that when you are being chased by a bear. Because that's what your body thinks. You're being chased by a bear. Forget about digestion. We don't need to do that right now. Just let that stuff sit in one place, and let's not, let's use all of our resources to get away from the bear. Again, you're in fight flight. So another thing that happens is your nervous system, the fight-flight mechanism, kicks in, and that could give you issues when you're too a personality. And you mentioned hormones. Well, you don't need a reproductive system when you're running away from a tiger either. Who's thinking about that, right? Ask anyone who's under a lot of stress how romantic they feel and reproductive they feel. And usually it's not real high on the list. Some people might have some quirks, but average person, most people. So reproduction goes down. So the sex hormones go down. Digestion goes down because you don't need to be doing that. And the immune system, unfortunately, is also affected because cortisol suppresses your secretory IgA, and it's the most abundant immunoglobulin or defense chemical, if you want, in your body. And most of it is released in the gut. So this secretory IgA, which, that you've heard, everyone I think has heard, the gut is 80% of your immune system. Well, a big part of that is secretory IgA, not all of it. But there's other immunoglobulins and there's other things that kick in from the bloodstream. But your body secretes these immunoglobulins, and they're really important to protect you from stuff coming down the pipes. It's called the mucosal barrier. And the mucous membranes, mucosal barrier, go from the conjunctiva of your eyes through your esophageal, the gastrointestinal, genital, urinary, there's the vaginal. So there's this mucosal barrier. The most important one probably be in the gut. And so you will shut that down too if you are, let's say, intensely exercising without proper recovery.
Yeah. So I know we're going to run out of time because each topic is so long, but what do we do for recovery and repair for athletes? And, if people are going to train, say they're doing a marathon, they're doing an Ironman, how can FDN practitioners help them do it without breaking themselves down and messing their whole body systems out? How can we do it if we're going to do it?
Well, first of all, let's admit that you can only do it for so long.
Yes.
You can keep it up for a while, and then you will pay the piper. So you're going to pay the piper for over-exercising or for overeating or for undersleeping, and for having too much stress in your life and things like that. And what a lot of people want to reach for right away are supplements. So there are some things. You can boost your immune system. You can certainly take some things that help with stress and try to keep your hormones balanced. There's B complex vitamins. There's also adaptogenic herbal things you can do. There's glandular products you can use. And there's things you can do to kind of mitigate the stress you're under. But they're really just going to provide what I mentioned and some extra nutrition for a short period of time.
But you don't want to put a Band-Aid on something either, right? I mean, we don't want just to treat the symptoms and put a Band-Aid that's just going to be there for get you through the season. Realizing what you're doing now is impacting the whole you for the rest of your life potentially. And what you're creating this damage that's not just going to be fixed up in 3 months after your season's over or whatever it might be. You got to take care of it.
I agree with you. And I agree with you. You don't want to just take supplements to make up. You always need to eat right. You need to rest every single day. Really, really rest well. And there's obviously therapies and modalities like, the massages and different things. What I'm more concerned about with the athletes these days, Debbie, is injury. Like blowing out body parts is a bad thing, because parts don't grow back. And I've experimented now. I spent a ton of money last year on things like stem cells and PRP. And, I've had all of that stuff because of my sports and motorcycle injuries. So you got it. I mean, there's just a few things I wish about my past that would change. It would be the injury. So, that takes the science and knowledge of your body and its capacity. So I don't get as concerned with the taking supplements or some of these other things as I do injury prevention. And I'm not even an expert in it, but there's ways to tune your body up. You can go at it like hell, but if you can avoid injuries, that by being in shape, the flexibility, the strength, the conditioning, that's the best way that I know of to help an athlete. We know you're going to go at it. We know you're going to punish yourself. We know you like pain, or you can handle the pain. You'll play through pain, kind of a thing. And there is, by the way, there's medication and stuff to mitigate some of those symptoms. But and so even if you get someone eating perfectly and going to bed and really getting a good night's sleep and doing their non-sport tune-up accident or injury prevention type exercises, and you reduce all the stressors, you get them off foods they're sensitive to, out of an environment, chemical exposure, electromagnetic frequencies, you can get them all that away from them. You can treat their parasites, bacteria, funguses, and things. You can load them up with supplements, all the vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, and things. But injury prevention is the way for athletes to come out of it down the road in good shape.
Yes, I agree.
My opinion.
No, I agree. And, I keep talking because I've been a personal trainer for 25 years as well. And that you have to, so many athletes don't think that they need to do strength training and core training and foundational movements and mobility drills. And they just think, oh, I'm running hills today, or I'm riding outside on getting some hills in there. It's okay. I don't need to do any strength training. But I think that's, the secret to being a little bit healthier and balancing your hormones with the DHA, the catabolic anabolic balance, and having the cortisol increasing from that from the cardio, and then the DHA, we can help the hormones with the more anabolic, with the strength training, I would think. As well as the mitochondria function. Yeah. Have you been doing anything with the mitochondria optimization there and researching on the red light near-infrared therapy and all that?
Yeah, I use near red. I've got one upstairs. And, I really try to eat clean. I stay away from chemicals and things. There's another thing that happens when you get older. You get you get a lot of sort of garbage, the cells that aren't dead, but they aren't doing much for you either. They don't want to go away. So detoxification becomes really, really important. Just keeping your liver really healthy, your kidneys really healthy, and your colon really healthy, and even your lymph system, keeping that moving, and do the things that help you detoxify, keep your detoxification organs in shape, including what athletes love to do, which is sweat. It's actually really good for you. You can get rid of a lot of toxins that way. And breathing exercises, or most athletes know about breathing, you're expelling gases, things that you don't want hanging around your body. Mm-hmm. So detoxification becomes a way. And there's supplements that pretty cool. I'm actually experimenting now with some peptides and things, and they're injectable. So you got to work with a functional medicine doctor who knows what he's doing. I'll just throw in a plug for Tom Moorcraft. He's out of New Hampshire, and I'm in San Diego. So when I have to see him, it's a whole day's flight there and another day back, It's mostly traveling, and I see him for just a couple hours, do some therapies, hyperbaric chamber, and IV therapy, and then some of these peptides that are injectable I think I'm learning about that.
What is that doing for you? What did the peptides do? I know Jimmy Moore was using those.
Making me Mr. Macho Man at 66 years old. I feel like a kid, Yeah, I feel fit. And again, nobody's going to out-muscle me, unless they're just that much bigger. But I've wrestled, I weigh 200 pounds, and I'll go to the mat, so.
What about with Paul Chek, though? You versus Paul Chek, is that?
Well, Paul Chek and I are friends, and we've had that conversation. It would be who chokes out who. We're not going to come to blows, but, that'd be a good one. He's pretty freaking strong, that guy. But it isn't always strength. Technique comes into it. We've done stuff together. He and I have piled rocks. We do these rock formations. It's kind of a meditation, actually. So it's a lot of love and, being mindful and stuff. But yeah. And I'm 66. I have a 40-year-old girlfriend. That might tell you something. I don't know.
Vitality. We're practicing what you preach. Thrive and feel alive every day.
The long-term effect is what I'm after. It's not short-term. Some of these things, we're just kidding around. I want to get up every day, give thanks, be grateful, go to work, or go outside and play, or both. I try to mix it up. I have a beautiful yard. I do a lot of motorcycle riding. My other hobby is plants. I love planting. I have planted over 2,000 plants on my property. Wow. And I nurture each one, and, they don't all make it. You experiment with different things. In Southern California, where I have no water, I'm on a well, and it goes dry sometimes, I'm pretty much off the grid. I'm surprised that our connection's working as well on the satellite that I'm on, especially since it's actually raining today. But anyway, so the thing about being a health coach, especially in the FDN world, is trying to walk your talk. You have to try to set an example. I have my weaknesses, but I'm always coming back at it the next day. Like I said, get up, be thankful, go to work,
okay. So
and try to produce something.
let me interrupt. We don't say weaknesses. My client has taught me this and I pass it along to everybody. We say area of opportunity. It's not your weakness, but your
I love it. You're so right. Yeah. Language matters. You're right. It's I have opportunities for improvement as well as my strengths, I would say. So thanks.
Well, I know we're out of time and let you go have your evening to yourself, but what are some things places we can direct people to get some help if they want to look into hiring a FDN health practitioner, which I think of them as a health detective, and how we can get started and getting some advice?
Well, our website, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com, spelled the way it sounds, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com is a good place to start. We have an alumni group, and we have 420 members. There's another, I would say, at large, about another 1,000 practitioners at large who are not members. But I'm really nurturing my alumni group, the Association of Professional FDNs, who we're going to have our own website soon with a portal of entry for the public to try FDN, work with a professional FDN, and then you can decide if you want to become one. My real mission in life is to deputize as many people as possible who will go out in the world and practice FDN. Our mission is to help as many people as possible get well and stay well naturally, to educate them to get well and stay well naturally. So they in turn can educate others to do the same thing. And you can have a very happy and healthy profession helping others get happy and healthy. And I don't know anything more beautiful than that.
That is good. I always talk about having your passion, what your purpose is and your mission, and you have to love what you're doing and, feel that you can make each day to the fullest and enjoy life rather than, being angry and resentful and just not having that positive feeling every day. So I think it's important not to feel resentful and have any regrets, but instead, look at the positive side of everything and enjoy each day to the fullest.
Well, that's the thing of beauty, Debbie, and you really have it nailed down. I'm really so proud of you. Congrats again on finishing our program and for being way ahead of a lot of others. I mean, coming out of the gate, some of our practitioners are still wondering what their next step is, and that's why I created the professional group. But you've already got it down. I mean, you're doing amazing work. So good on you.
I've been starting since 2013 when it happened to me. So you've been an inspiration from before I met you. But just wanted to share with everyone where to find you next year. I've got a list of upcoming events. You'll be at MedFit in Irvine and NANP HealCon. Where's that one? And then NTA Roots, I'll be there in Portland, Oregon. Paleo FX and FDN Conference next year is in October in San Diego again.
Yes. Absolutely. The Hard Rock Hotel, sometime in October, the FDN annual conference will be repeated for another great weekend of learning and laughing and loving and hanging out with your peers. Cool people.
Add that I went to that conference this year, but I was already in the program. But last year I went to it just because I wanted to learn, and I knew for years I wanted to become an FDN practitioner. So you can be attending the conference and not be an FDN practitioner yet. And if you're curious about the process, I think it's a great way to start attending these conferences, because then these are my people. I jive with them, and this is kind of what I get excited about. Your family.
Great point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Reed. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And thanks for spreading your passion and purpose to us to pay it forward to others.
Thank you. I know you're there to help people, and I'm here to support and help you any way I can. So thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.